Hey, everybody. Master Toby Monroy here again, Vice President for AMS. And thanks again so much for taking some time out of your day to work on your business rather than just working in your business. And, as we've been talking a lot over the last couple of weeks about our response to this COVID-19 crisis, we've been talking to an awful lot of our clients and our friends and our colleagues in the industry, sharing strategies about what's working and the challenges that we're seeing and the obstacles that we're overcoming. And today, our very special guest is I hope my very good friend, Master Dave Kovar from California, who, all of our team, I'm sure, remember Master Kovar from all sorts of interactions that we've had in the past. And really, in my view, is one of the folks in the industry who's been so contributive, right, to schools outside of his own organization, all over the industry, all over the world. Master Kovar, it's just such a great honor to have you on the line today, and I really appreciate the time today.
Oh, thank you, sir. It's too bad that this is how we got to talk, right? It's like, yeah, great to see you. So happy to help.
Yeah, you forget to chat when you have a chance, and then
there you go.
Under rest, you remember who everybody was. I remember where everybody's at. Well, I guess my first question for today would be this. Here at AMS with Atlas Software and a bunch of other projects that we're working on, I think we're sort of dealing with a couple different groups of school operators, and one group I think we should address first. Unfortunately, it's still a reality. I wished it wasn't, but I think it is. There are some of our clients and some folks in the industry who, this crisis really took them sideways, and, you probably go through the stages of grief and all of that, but haven't really responded very well. Maybe they're, I hate to describe it this way, but sort of the old school, rough and tumbles, and they just kind of closed down because they were told to close down, and they've been sort of huddling in the corner in the fetal position, hoping that this thing is going to be over soon, and then they'll reopen and hope the students come back. So maybe you can walk us through that. Like, how have you guys been thinking about this problem? How have you responded? What do you think the right sort of way to think about the world is on this stuff?
Well, just like yourself, I spend a big chunk of my day, because in our coaching, I talking to school owners like hours a day, like I probably anyway. So, and I've seen both ends of the spectrum, and how many people are really like, are not really being as proactive as they possibly could. And I'm not passing any judgment on anybody. We all interpret things differently. But so my advice, first off, most of those people aren't even listening to you and I today, by the way. They're watching the news, you know what I'm saying, or something that's maybe less productive. Is that, I got some new earbuds and having a hard time getting them to figure out. There we go.
You sound great. You sound great.
All right. Well, there you go. So, but one of the things that this is cliche, but it's important to remember that, we can't control what happens around us, right? But what we can control is what we focus on and the action steps that we take. And that really can influence the outcome, right? And I think what a lot of people do is they're worried about what's going to happen in a year and a half from now, right? And who knows what's going to happen from a year and a half from now. But what you can do, there's so many things, like of a lot of our clients and guys that as well, we're actually in our schools doing surprisingly well. Now there's areas that we still got to figure out how to generate new members, right? That we're having a challenge trying to figure out right now. But as far as retaining, we've retained an amazing high level of our students paying full tuition, right? And we'll talk about what we're doing with that maybe later. It's probably what a lot of other people are doing. But I think what's important, like I've really came up with, for me, it's, I'm calling them the 3 A's, okay? And they're adaptability, attitude, and action, right? And right now you're kind of adjusting, staying relevant, and means that I'm amazed. We help out this organization that's not a martial arts, and I'm just going to I'm going to leave them anonymous. It's another sport that we help out, that we've kind of used our business model to help out this other sport. And they have several locations, and they're backed by some professional athletes. And so anyway, long story short is, what they did is they decided they were going to discontinue. They're going to still do Zoom classes, but they're just going to discontinue, charging. Okay. And I was going, man, what are you doing? Hold on a sec, time out. We're still getting full price, and we've got most of our students still training. And so they went back to their client, their student body. And what they did is they reached out. And so we recommended calling all the students and, converting them over. But instead of what we're doing, like with our calls, we called every member that we had. And between our 8 locations that we own, that's almost 3,000 members. And we basically said, hey, we're converting to, we're still giving classes. It's just not in the school anymore. It's online. and we're, given private lessons, and we do 10-minute private lessons and Zoom classes and our resource library, et cetera. And just explain to people how this is going to work. And we had almost everybody go, oh, okay, great, sounds great. Well, what they did is they called and said, you don't want to pay full tuition to continue online, do you? I didn't think so. In other words, their mindset, they had an opt-in versus an opt-out mindset, right? It's like, and what happened, they only got about 15% of their people to convert because of the mindset they brought to the equation. So what am I getting at? Is the first and foremost is that instead of, I always try to position challenges in the form of a question that assumes there's an answer. Okay, like versus, of course, so right now it would be, how can I manage this crisis in a way that brings maximum benefit to my community, my business, and my family, right? And so when it comes to price point, how can I justify charging full price to my student body? What value can I bring? So you ask a question like that, all of a sudden it gets you thinking about different things, right? And so I don't know about you, but our students need martial arts now more than ever. And if you look at it selfishly, like this is, I need to, boy, the school's got to stay, if we don't keep the bills coming in, we're going to run out of money. Well, then you're kind of going from a point of desperation, and people could smell that, right? But when you go at it from my students need this program now more than ever. I got to keep these families in it because it's going to keep them sane. It's going to keep them moving. Then the human mind is easily influenced by anything spoken with conviction. And when people feel your commitment to what your cause, it's a completely different conversation. The words might be the same, but the energy is completely different. Does that make any sense?
100%. We've had this exact same conversation. When somebody enrolls at Harvard, just because you can't go to the lecture hall doesn't mean that you're still not going to get the education that you wanted to get at Harvard, right? They're just delivering it by mechanism. And I think your lesson here is you put the customer first. What can I do to add value to the customer experience? What can I do to add value to the students' lives? Right now they're cooped up at home. They're not playing soccer. They can't play football. They can't go out. What more could they need than a service like this? Right? I 100% agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's the other thing is I think a lot of those guys that are, you've got the two camps. I see these guys that are busting their butt to make stuff happen, and those that are getting surprisingly good results. It's not like it's great. It's not that, it's not that they love what's going on, but they're making the best of the situation. And it's very cliche, but it's so true. It's what we teach our students. I want to share a story with you, and it really reminds me about how much we still have to be appreciative and to work with. So, I was just got back actually right at the middle of actually the last part of February. I hopped on a plane. I had a 3-week tour. I was going to Australia, then New Zealand, and the UK. I had a bunch of seminars to do, and my trip got cut early. Like middle of March. Now they're saying borders are going to close. Get home, right? So I cut my trip early, and I'm at the airport, and there's this really bizarre kind of sense of last plane home almost type thing, right? And I'm waiting to board a plane from Birmingham, UK to Amsterdam to get back home, and the plane's going to board in 10 or 15 minutes, and there's a group of college students in front of me that had lost. They had their semester abroad visa revoked, right? And they're on their way home, and they're joking and laughing and having a good time, and all of a sudden, one girl realizes that she left her phone back at the food court. And of course, we've all had that feeling where we're going, like her head goes into her hands and she's starting to really have a hard time. The plane's going to board any moment. And we've all lost, can't find our keys but imagine in her case, we're going home. She's never going to see this phone again, all her contacts, etc. So her boyfriend goes, okay, I'll go try to find it. So he runs off. And so for the next 10 minutes, there's this tension that you can just oozing from her, right? And getting it right, they're starting to board the plane right at the nick of time. Guess who runs back with phone in hand? Boyfriend, big hug. She's just in this state of bliss, right? She couldn't be happier. Now, here's the question I have for you. A half hour earlier, when she still had her phone before she'd lost it, was she super happy because she had her phone, or did she just have her phone, right? In other words, in Stoicism, this is called amor fati. Amor fati means love your life, love your fate, love what happens to you. And that a lot of times we just have to remember how much we focus on on something that we might lose versus what we already have. Does that make sense? And see, what brings us out of being at our best is regret for the past or fear of the future. And if we simply every day just take action, man, you know, and maybe we don't know exactly what to do, but here's the deal. Like, if let's say you and I are supposed to go to the North Pole and we don't have a map, we can whine about not having a map and go, oh, no map. Or we can go, all right, man, let me see. It's the evening. That means the sun. If I put the sun on my left shoulder, that means going straight ahead is north. Let me start walking. You know, in other words, action is a great remedy for feeling unsure of the future. And that's what I find three things that I try to focus on is you know, when it comes to taking action is, of course, stuff that you can do effectively for your business, right? But it's really beyond just the business. It's like making sure that you are exercising action when it comes to servicing others, especially your student body, because we always feel good about that, you know, and then just remembering to appreciate all the stuff. Chances are most of us, our refrigerator still got food in it. You know, we're not homeless. You know, yeah, there might be some money that we lost on the stock market. Yeah, you know, being upset about it doesn't really help. Like, one other quick story, and I'm digressing a little bit, but I think for me, you teach what you most need to hear, and this story for me was really powerful. You ever heard of a guy named Thomas Edison?
Thomas Edison? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you heard that name before. Well, there's a story about how Thomas Edison, he gets woke up in the middle of the night by his son because dad, yeah, what is it? Your factory's burning down. And they go out, and here he's got this factory that he didn't insure because he was so sure it was going to be fireproof, because he had invented some new material that, well, not only is it not fireproof, but whatever the material is actually is super flammable. It's got these crazy flames and everything. And so what does he do? Okay, well, there's nothing he can do to save the building. Like, it's gone. So he says, go wake up your mother and all her friends. Tell them to get out here, because they're never going to see a fire this gorgeous, right? In other words, it's going to burn. Nothing I can do about it now. I'm just going to, you know, and I don't know if that's a good analogy now, but the point is that what we can bring is accepting the reality of the situation and trying to making the best of it. I guess that's the point. And that's by taking massive action and being as strategic as you can.
Yeah, you've got to steer into the skid, and you might as well prefer it because you don't have a choice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You might as well do it. You know, I was talking to just yesterday. I was talking to our mutual buddy Carlos Machado, and who's just a wonderful martial artist and, you know, wonderful,
amazing guy. Amazing guy. Absolutely,
amazing guy. And
I got a private lesson with him at the Super Show last year, like 2 private lessons with him. It was like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. He is next level on the ground, man. I mean, next level, dude. But, you know, we sort of almost, you know, digressed into this analogy between, you know, fighters and how we respond to a situation like this. And there are some folks, as we described, who get tagged on the chin or who get shooken up a little bit. And their response to that, sometimes subconsciously, is they just fold. Right. Mm-hmm. Other people, they get tagged on the chin and their eyes get more focused and their forehead dips down a little bit and they lean in. Right. And mm-hmm. I think what you're describing is we've got to be leaning into our customers right now. They need us more than ever. Mm-hmm. You know, if they don't hear from us, what do you think is going to happen? Right. We need to be a bigger part of their life, not a smaller part of their life. And we have to embrace this challenge because you can't change it. Right. I mean, we're in mm-hmm. this now, you know?
So, you know, tactically, you know, one of the things that like I know a few people said, hey, man, we're not charging tuition this month till this blows over. And I know a couple guys that kind of wish they didn't do that. You know, it's like, okay, now how do I walk that back? Right. And that's a tricky one. But let's just take like I was talking to someone a week ago. I was saying, call every student that is still on your list that has not shown up for Zoom classes or has not done your online program. And they're like, man, I don't want to, like, I'm worried about waking a sleeping bear, that they're going to go, oh, what? You're still billing me? Give me my, you know, that kind of stuff. Well, here's the deal. If you wait 3 months, you're going to get a bunch of people that are reaching back going, what have you been doing? School's been closed and you're still, what? I want my money back, right? So you get ahead of it. And so what I would strongly encourage school owners to do right now is take a look at all the students. And yes, chances are if you're doing online training, you got a bunch of people that are playing full out, that are loving the program. And so you think you're doing everything you can. The reality is maybe you might only be getting to 40 or 50% of your student body. And the ones you need to worry about, those other ones. And so I would strongly encourage people to get on the phone. Don't send them, if you send them an email, okay, nothing wrong with sending them an email, but honestly, you think they're looking at every email you send. You're wrong. They're not. Yeah. Right. It's like, you know, literally try old school, like, you know, text to ask and to make and call and just explain what's going on. And here's been our response when someone says, oh no, I think we're just going to hold off, put our program on freeze until this clears over. Now, first off, keep in mind, there's some people that have no choice but to put their program on hold because they lost their job. They have no income, right? On the other end, there's some people, I've heard of cases that people have said, hey, let me pay, I want to support the school. I've got plenty of money. Let me scholarship 3 other kids that parents can't afford it. You know, that, but here's the deal. Those are the two extremes. In the middle, you know, 70, 80% of our student body will continue to pay tuition if you give them a reason to. Right? 100%. If you give them, and that's really what we can focus on. We can't focus on these. So those are the people you call up, and if they say, I think we'll put the program on hold, here's what we've been saying. Hey, Toby, I understand that, and we can certainly do that. But however, why don't you try out our online program for a couple of weeks? And if it is not working out for you, then we can put the program on hold. And that's worked 4 out of 5 times. Yeah, to keep people in the trenches. Right?
If you don't mind me tagging on to that.
Go.
So, a large part, a good chunk of what we do here at AMS is we handle full service billing for martial arts schools. So we've worked with literally thousands of students over the last few weeks. We've been doing for our clients what you're describing. We were getting a hold of every single student, pardon me, and we've got the staff to be able to do it. I mean, we have a whole group of people who work the phones all day long, right? And
right.
Answer their phone. It's interesting, but they do. And we've been having that conversation, and you're exactly right. It's the vacuum of communication that costs you, right? Not the abundance of communication.
Yes.
And the thing to worry about that some people don't quite understand sometimes is if you do what you described, where you just kind of let the sleeping dog lie and hope nothing happens. Well, see, there's something called a chargeback. And that puts your merchant accounts at great risk and your credit rating at great risk. If you start having a huge chargeback liability, this is a big problem. So you have to handle this proactively. But I just wanted to reinforce, like, that's what what you're describing is what we are seeing on a large scale. Thousands of students we've talked to over the last few weeks. And it's really helped out our clients, right? Because now they know, the students now know how to do the online training. They understand the relationship that we're having now. They understand that they're helping us. Very useful, but that's a huge point. You don't want to miss what you just said. That's a big deal, right?
Yeah. So, it's like the other thing that I think is crucial is the kind of like in the trenches right now. And I'm sure that you're professing this already, but we're doing massive amounts of 10-minute private lessons. Now the deal, and we're transitioning to semi-privates versus small group. The terminology is semi-private with 4 to 6 people in a Zoom class. Some of my guys are still doing like 10-minute privates, and the concept with this is it's not it's to help with we want them on their other we still want them in our Zoom classes. We still want them going into our Covars TV and pulling out the YouTube video of their curriculum, all that. But really, the 10-minute class, it's almost sometimes not even a martial arts class. It's a checkup. How are you being? Are you helping mom at home? Are you being? And then that, like, in a very short period of time, if you've got someone, you can learn a lot from someone in a few minutes. So it's like time to equate value. In other words, I'd rather have like 10 minute private lessons with 10 different people than one 100-minute private lesson. You get the idea with one person. In other words, and it's amazing that it's important for us to remember that what's most important, I think, is to keep the emotional connection strong with your student body, right? And here's the deal, because in emotion and logic, they're like oil and water. They don't mix. When someone's emotionally connected with your school, they'll justify paying the monthly tuition, especially if you're giving value. Of course, if you're giving value, right? But if you don't bring that human element to this, then you just become a commodity. And this is what I'm seeing with guys that are doing the best in this are people that are bringing their A game, man. They're not watching Netflix videos all day. You know what I'm talking about? They're like, man, they are, okay, what can I do to bring value to my students? And then they're taking action on that. And that's going to bring them out the other end of this in the best situation possible.
Yeah. People will remember how you handled the situation. People will remember how you dealt with them. Let me push into a couple of things if we can unpack a little bit there, sir. Okay, so just tactically, you're delivering 3 sort of components. You're delivering sort of the video training where they can go access their library and learn kind of their core curriculum. Plus you're executing group like Zoom classes where instructors are instructors and they treat it just like a class. And then also some one-on-one stuff, right? Does that sound like the package?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's the package.
I mean, that's fantastic. Like that's a whole other tier than what they used to get in the school, right?
Yeah.
So then, agree or disagree with my premise? I'm curious to know what you would think about this. Here's my premise, and let me know if you could expand on it. My premise has been with my guys that teaching over Zoom, other than you've got a couple of technical challenges, you got the camera, you've got to move in and out a little bit more than maybe you would ordinarily. If I haven't been doing this before, maybe I'm a little uncertain about what it should look like. My premise is if you're a great instructor on the floor, it's exactly the same. You're still going to call every student by name 3 times. You're still going to have students come out and demonstrate their technique. You're still going to touch the same techniques of teaching just over video. Would you agree? And how would you expand on that? Like, what are you guys focused on right now?
Yeah, I think that the key thing, it's actually, unless you're doing it like, in California, we have a stay-at-home order. Some guys are going to their schools to film. In our particular, we have all our instructors teaching out of their house, right? Yep. So everybody's doing solo, right? So very rarely, unless you happen to have a kid with you that can help you demonstrate, it's solo stuff. But so I know that Zoom classes, and I'm teaching not a lot. I'm teaching 4 or 5 a week right now, personally, mostly to staff or some of our. But but the deal is they're harder to teach than a regular class. They take up because you have to demonstrate everything. It reminds me of back in the day, back in the late 70s and early 80s, when I was just the model was private lessons. It was Tracy's karate studios, and it was private lessons all day and classes in the evening. And so but absolutely, it's hard work to do. But you treat it. It's a real class, and in a lot of ways, I mean, some of our people are getting really good at their, I mean, like they're really, there's a lot of course, there's nothing better than being live one-on-one, but we're seeing improvement in a lot of different areas with our student body. And one of the things that also, of course, is the breakout rooms within Zoom are really helpful, making sure that if you're the one that's teaching and you have a large class, it's hard to do the shout out because, you maybe have 50 people in your class, and that's got a couple screens, but you do your best. But if you team teach, you put the instructor on spotlight, and then you have another instructor that's over there, telling Bobby to get his hands up and way to go, and then spotlighting the students, which is really powerful, right? To perform. It's interesting because I was in a class on Zoom. I was on the receiving end, and someone shouted out my name, "Hey, Mr. Govar," and I went, "Hey, that's me." Yeah. They knew who I was. People. It makes people feel good when they're. So super important that and that's the difference. See, what that gives is feedback. That's what makes this different than just going to a YouTube video, right? Or what's in our resource library, which is curriculum. When the person watching knows that you don't see them, but so that interactive nature of Zoom really, that's to me that makes it much more powerful, or at least to work in concert with any other platform that you might be using.
Yeah, it mirrors the classroom experience about as close as you can get. And I mean, I think I'd asked this question, or I thought about this myself over the last couple of weeks, and I'm just thinking to myself, my God, how lucky we are. How lucky we are for 3 reasons. Number one, how lucky we are to be in an industry where we can still deliver our product, our service. We can still impact people's lives
100%
digitally.
100%.
How lucky are we that we're in an industry that's so collaborative with each other, so supportive with each other? And third,
totally, it's so true.
Yeah, and how lucky are we that it's today? This is happening today. If this would have happened 20 years ago, before broadband was on everybody's cell phone, and before platforms like Zoom or GoToMeeting were around, before video conferencing was even possible, what would we have done 20 years ago, right? So, I mean, I think there's a little gratitude to be had, for, the advantages that we have now. And I know that goes a lot to, what's in your head.
No, right? Man, I think those are I think your points are just really, really well taken. And I honestly hadn't thought of it that way. And I appreciate you sharing, because it is so true. It's like instinctively, yes, of course, but I hadn't like really articulated that. And it's what one cool thing is that, like, I've been on the phone, like, Nick, there's a different players in the martial arts industry, but we all tend to get along for the most part pretty good. And I've been on the phone with a lot of guys that maybe coach clients that I guess could be viewed, quote, as competitors in some level, but nobody seems to care about that. It's a bigger scheme, it's bigger than that. You know what I mean? And it is cool to see and the other thing that's cool about martial arts is in the martial arts industry, because martial arts, there's this inherent value for self-improvement, for personal development. You know, I'm trying to get better. Well, that transfers over, it seems to me, like beyond just kicking and punching, like I'm trying to develop more, right? You know, I don't know if you ever try to help businesses outside the martial arts, but they're not as receptive to personal development stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like in our world, everybody knows who Tony Robbins is, and Brian Tracy and Stephen Covey. That's like everybody does. But if you go to, you know, your guy that's the dry cleaner down the street, they've never heard of those people. You know, they're not in a collaborative network like we are. And it kind of goes like this. They're very cliche. If I give you $1 and you give me $1, we both have $1. But if I give you an idea and you give me an idea, we both have 2 ideas now, right? And that this is the time for us as an industry to collectively share, to learn from others, but also not, if you find something that works, man, you owe it to our industry to share it. Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what's working. You know, in my opinion, you know, that's the time to really step up, and rising tide lifts all boats, to quote Nick Kokinos. You know, actually, I think John F. Kennedy was the originator of that, but yeah, or something.
No, 100% agree. And you know, another Nick quote, by the way, that has really, over the last couple of weeks, has really, you know, it's in the back of my mind. I hear it over and over and over and over again, is that, you know, I'd rather have a crisis than a sloppy situation. And this reminds me of that, right? I mean, this is, we've been lazy in this industry, right? We've taken some time where we've been resistant to technology. You've seen Mirror.co, right?
Yeah.
This new Crazen thing. This is AI yoga instruction in your own bedroom via video. AI, no instructor. And it knows exactly where your foot is, and it can tell you, listen, your right foot needs to be 6 inches to the right. And
insane.
It's insane. This is coming. So we either gear up for this now, or you know, it's Netflix versus Blockbuster. Yeah.
Well, and I think I agree with you. And I also got to say, I think the more technology that comes around, the need for real interaction is still going to be there. You know, I don't think the dojo experience is going to leave anytime soon. It might, you know, there's going to be a little ruffle here of a little while, but also the nature of what we do. Yes, you can do a lot on your own, but the bottom line is it's nice to interact with somebody and have someone grab you, you know. So I think it's in concert with, you know, I think that's where this is going. It's like, you know, this has really brought everybody into the world of technology, whether they wanted to or not. And I don't think it's ever going to go back. You know, to be in the same. So, you know, what we have to do is really, as Tony Robbins would say, stand guard at the door of your mind. And meaning is that we got to make it a point to feel good stuff like in our head. It sounds, you know, kind of Pollyannish, but it's really not. Like for example, yesterday or 2 days ago, I was on the phone with a guy who was singing the blues, and it's somebody I respect, and I was kind of surprised by the negativity that they were bringing into it, and the concerns about the future and the things to do, and boom, boom. And it was like, you know, it was kind of the mentality was, you know, go up in the mountains, find some cabin and hide out for the next 5 years. I mean, that was kind of he was kind of a prepper kind of mindset for. And I'll tell you what, I got off the phone with him. I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm this mindset that I realized I had to go, wait a minute, time out. That's not me. That's not me. That's not how I, and so, you know, fear is contagious, right? But so is being calm, so is being courageous. And that's where we need to position ourselves. And sometimes, you know, you're going to have your moments of doubt. Like, I'm good about 23 hours and 45 minutes a day. I'm like on this, man, I'm there. And there's a little time, usually about midnight or 1 a.m, when I wake up, like, oh, what, you know, but I, you know, it's about recognizing that's the fear loop, and you don't go down that road too far. It's you know, it's kind of control the beast when it's young, meaning before it gets out of hand, you take a breath and you kind of bring yourself back in and you focus on what you can do, right? And then it's kind of like, I don't know if you're much of a fan of Stoicism or you follow it much, you know, Marcus Aurelius and you know, it's just really amazing stuff. And but you know, it's kind of like you focus on what you can do, right? You give 100% commitment what you can do. And then you just kind of, you know, you go with there's more to it than that, but then you kind of roll with the punches, right? And this is a great chance for us to practice all the things that we tell our students.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, with the conversation with Carlos yesterday, this is no different than fighting. This is no different than martial arts. This is no different than, just living, right? I mean, you're going to get tagged on the chin every now and then. You got to scramble well, and you lean in. You don't go run to the corner and hide, right? You got to get out and play the game, right? No, I think it's fantastic. I know you have a hard stop here in like 2 minutes, so we should wrap up. But any other tactics that you think might be useful? I think it's all the same as we've been doing, right?
Yeah. And I think looking at reopen, right? One of the things that we're going to probably do is that, we're probably going to run our classes shorter. They're 45 minutes now. We're going to go to half hour so that we can keep it, so we don't have to change the schedule at all, and then give people time to get in and out. Obviously, configuring the mats, we're going to do things like it may change. Open up. It's going to be one live class, continue with Zoom. So we have less people actually showing up to the school, one spectator per child.
Right.
Right. And, thermometers to check temperatures. You have a very sophisticated way to make sure that the mats are, wiping the feet off, and then putting them on a disinfectant and stepping on the floor, all the things that everybody else is doing. I'm sure we'll learn more as we're going, but we just got to let the industry, the general public know that we are doing everything in our powers to be as safe as possible, so that, we encourage them to get back in. If I had a fear, my fear would be, can we, our model of having 30 people on the mat, how receptive is the general public going to be to that? And that's something that we got to figure out and address.
Yeah. And state by state, I think, these things are going to happen at different times, and it's going to be an interesting experiment. But I think like the big message that I'm hearing, and I think it's exactly the right message, is it really doesn't matter what the obstacle is. You either choose to see the obstacle or you choose to see the opportunities. And we need everybody in this industry to be thinking about the opportunities here, right? Like now more than ever, we're in their living room now. Now more than ever, we have the parents' ears. Now we have the siblings' ears. Now we have more opportunity to impact the family. And this is a great opportunity to do that. Might as well take advantage of it, right? I mean, there's no other way back. Well, I really appreciate the time again, sir. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Great getting caught up. We got to do it more often.
100%. And we'll talk a little bit about maybe December here in a little while. So I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
All right. I wish you the best, my friend. Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And this too shall pass. Do everything you can, and it's you're gonna maximize the potential for good stuff.
100%. This will not be fatal.
Yes, sir.
This will not be fatal. Anyway, thank you again, sir. Really appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care.